thank you for clicking on this video. You've got thousands to choose from, and I'm really grateful you made this choice. Okay, what I have for you today is an excerpt from a really long process in which I took this guitar, and I'll show you briefly what it looked like before, and replaced the pickup, and replaced the bridge, and replaced the nut. It's a long story. I can post the whole thing if you care to see that whole process and the trials and tribulations I went through. This particular video, though, just demonstrates the dangers of getting a vibrato bridge that you learn too late and repeatedly is not good. So, here we go. So I have had the urge lately to modify a guitar. And I have this machine. This is a 1980-something Washburn G4. This says it is a Floyd Rose licensed bridge. This thing is ugly as fuck. It looks like the engine of some massive machine. And it's just so much metal. I think it's just ridiculous. A weird thing about this is it says Floyd Rose and hooray, no, Floyd Rose licensed. But you could make it go that way, right? But you couldn't pull up. It just doesn't seem like it did anything that you couldn't do with a smaller, less ugly vibrato bridge. Let's replace it. Now I want to put a new bridge in here. Putting in one of these two-post knife edge bridges is a pain in the ass. I have discovered from successfully doing it on one guitar and failing to do it on another. So, okay, now this is not a Wilkinson, this is some off-breed, but everything looks flat and smooth, so that's fine. But getting this bridge positioned correctly is a son of a gun. Because the hole, especially for this post, has got to be in exactly the right spot. Well, for both of them, but for this one it's especially important. And it's especially difficult because the circumference of the post sleeve is larger than the circumference of this space for it. So you got to put this sleeve in there and get it down so that the top is level with the guitar body. And when it's there, it will be, the bridge hole, or the edges of it, will be overlapping this just a little bit. And man, figuring out exactly where to put that hole, so you're overlapping it with the bridge by just the right amount, that is something else. And we'll burn that bridge when we come to it. All right, so here is this guitar looking like it's about done. Let's focus on the positive. Look at that thing. Yeah, it's missing a B string. That's because I broke the B string. So, this set of strings is now for demonstration purposes. But it looks good. Now the not so good. Oh my. You got to do that too when you're using the whammy bar. Right. The problem is not the strings. I've been breaking these fuckers in for about 45 minutes. And I don't think the problem is the tuners because they've never given me any trouble before. The problem is in this here bridge somewhere. And I don't know what it is. Take a look at how that bridge is setting or not setting flush with the guitar body. So I don't know what the deal is. And also, when the strings go out of tune, they're going out sharp, which is really odd. I've never had strings go out sharp before, with a bridge, a vibrato problem. Of course, they don't go out sharp to the same degree. They go out sharp to different degrees, so the whole thing sounds awful. So this bridge, I think, is not good. There is something about it that is not working out. I put a two-post bridge in another guitar. Works fine. Everything's great, So, yeah, this bridge, I said earlier in this video it was an off-breed, but I figured it'd be fine. Well, apparently not. So, I'm going to pull this out of here, and I'm either going to order a different bridge, or I'm going to just put in, a 6-screw bridge like you'd normally put in, But I guess we'll just have to see how that goes. And by the way, as far as I can tell, there is no way to actually pull these posts out of the guitar. So what you have to do is you take the post out of the sleeve and then drill down through there until you've got a hole clear through the body. Then you put the post back in and you put something to serve as a punch, through that hole, and give it a couple or three whacks with the hammer and drive the post and the sleeve, back out this way. Seems kind of barbaric. There's probably a better way to do it, but I don't know what it is. So here's the bridge we're going to put in. It's just a 6-screw old-timey thing. It's got a super skinny, cheap-ass block. It won't quite fit into the existing screw holes because, as it turns out, that Floyd Rose bridge was a 54 millimeter wide bridge rather than 52.5. Okay, from the school of how not to do shit. So I took out that 2-post trim system and I put in the 6-post one, and it was just a cluster, fill in the rest of the phrase. Because, I'd made Swiss cheese out of the thing because the screws did not fit in the existing screw holes. Clearly they didn't fit in the big post holes. But anyway, I had to saw out a big chunk of wood there because there were too many holes and stuff. I just couldn't get a grip. So I sawed it out, and then I sawed a block of wood to fit in there, and I had to rubber mallet that thing in, and then I used brackets to fix it on the bottom so it ain't going nowhere, he said, employing, the vernacular. And then I so carefully positioned and measured and straight edged this here traditional vibrato bridge, and by gosh, it sits on the body of the guitar, goes back where it should when you're done with it, and how cool is that? So I took off the 2-post bridge I had put on here, and I put on a 6-screw bridge, traditional sort of a thing, and it worked just fine. But the more I thought about the 2-post bridge, I thought, I must just not have put that on right. So I took out the 6-screw bridge and I took out the block of wood that I have in the guitar body. I got a new block of wood and I got it in there nice and solid and carefully attached. Again, the 2-post bridge. Let's give a listen, shall we? That was in tune just a minute ago. Yeah, and here's a cool thing too. Not supposed to do that. So yeah, whatever's going on with this bridge, it isn't right. Take a look at where that bridge is sitting. Look at how raised up that thing is. That's exactly the problem I had the first time, and I thought, I must just have screwed it up. But no, that's a bad bridge, and I don't know what the problem is, but it ain't working out, so it's coming out again. So I took out that 2-post bridge, and of course I had to then remove the block of wood that it was attached in because there were 2 big-ass holes on each side, and I had to put in some new wood so I can attach the new bridge, which is this, just a standard, 6-post, 6-screw bridge that I had in there before, and it worked, but I took it out like a dumbass because I thought I could make the 2-post bridge work, which, as you've seen, I didn't. And I carefully measured and cut a piece of wood and sanded the sides of it as well as the sides of the guitar body so there'd be as much flat contact on the 3 planes as possible. And I put it in there with some form of Gorilla Glue and let it dry overnight. And I even put a couple of brackets into the bottom of it to make sure that thing doesn't go anywhere. And there was a little bit of space at the bottom, so I used some wood filler, as you can see, to fill up that. And I put this in, and I'm like, hey, great. But it's not completely level. There's a little bit of a raised bit right there. So I've taken some painter's tape and put all the way around it so I don't scratch up the guitar body any more than I already have. And now I'm just going to take some sandpaper and carefully taking my time, sand this down until it's level. So now that we have things all sanded down, it's time to position the bridge. So we take our bridge and we set it in the hole, right? And you need to make sure that it's not touching the edge of the hole anywhere, because if you do, it'll rub and stick and things will just be horrible. And as you can see, I've actually already positioned this because I've made my guide holes for the screws. So I guess I'm cheating just a little bit with the video. But you position the bridge where you think it needs to be, and then we take one of our best buddies, a long straight edge, a ruler. And what we're going to do is go up here to the nut, and we position the end of that ruler so it's right in the middle of the nut slot for the high E. Then we go down here, and we position it so it is right over the slot in the saddle for the high E. Is that right? That's right. And then we take a gander at how far that string will be from the edge of the fretboard. And yeah, that looks just about right. So then we'll do that again with the low E. Move that end over there. So the corner is right in the middle of that low E slot on the nut. And then we'll move this side over as well. So it's right in the middle of the slot on the bridge. And then we look up here and we go, hey, great. It looks like there's the same amount of space between the string and the edge of the fretboard on the low E side as there is on the high E side. So fantabulous. And while we're here, we'll also take a look at how far from the nut the bridge is sitting. And as you can see, the saddles that are most forward are pretty much exactly 25.5 inches from the nut, so that's great. And also, one of the really strangely tricky parts is getting that bridge in there exactly straight. It's more tricky than it normally would be because I've had to, saw out chunks of wood and put new bits in there, so it's not entirely straight down there. But what we'll do is move this ruler back up so it goes from the high E slot in the nut down to the high E slot in the bridge, and we take a look at this and go, okay, it is 25.1/8 inches from the nut to the front edge of the bridge plate. Now we'll move over to the low E side. Pardon my moving the damn camera around. Do the same thing, and we go, hey, great, 25.1/8 inches. So we've got our bridge positioned pretty much where we want it. Now just take our trusty ballpoint and poke down through each of those holes, making a nice little spot for the drill to go. All right, 2-post bridge out, 6-post bridge, or 6-screw bridge in, and everything works like it's supposed to. And when it goes out of tune, it goes out of tune flat, like God intended. All right, so yeah, I guess I'm done with this project. And I've got a much longer video that is all about, putting in the new pickup and all that kind of groovy shit. If you care to see that, let me know. For now, I'm just putting up the parts that have to do with the bridge, saying beware of cheap vibrato bridges because they might not work that well. Now, as I've said, I don't think that just because something is inexpensive, that means it's not going to work well. I have inexpensive things that work great, and I also have expensive things that work lousy. So, and I won't tell you where that lousy 2-post bridge came from, except I will tell you that the name of the store starts with music and ends with Lily. So, but that having been said, this bridge from that same store, and I think this pickup came from there also, as did this knob, and I've had various other things from there that work just fine. That 2-post bridge just didn't, so. All right, that's what I've got. Hey, thank you all for watching very much. And, oh, by the way, I'm not wearing this hat because it's cold in my house, and I don't really want to spend more on fuel than I spend already. I'm wearing it just because it looks so fucking cool. Or maybe it's because my house is cold. It's hard to say. You guys are awesome. Thank you for clicking on this video. I'll talk to you soon.